2020 has been a challenging year. That is an understatement, isn't it? As we have faced change after change, it's been scary, uh, and it's been frustrating, and it's been a long year. And so I know that you're like me and that you're really looking forward to a break. So the holidays are coming up. And so that is so good because maybe we'll get a chance to have some downtime and maybe recoup some of the energy that we've had to spend this year. But there's one thing that we need to keep in mind as we go into the holidays, and that is that we are still living in a pandemic. And so we want to make sure that we are being safe even when we're not at work. We spend a lot of time talking about protocols here at work, but today I want to talk about how to take care of yourself when you're not at work. The first thing I want to talk about is mental health. That is one of the things that has taken a big hit, and it kind of goes undiscussed. Is the mental health issues that are being caused this year amplified and exaggerated? We have more suicides, we have depression, we have loneliness, and we have anxiety. Stress is, through the roof. And so all of these things are really impacting you. I know they are. They're impacting me. And so what I wanted to do today was kind of talk to you about some different ways that you can have a very happy and a very safe holiday. So I'm going to go through a few points with you. I'm going to show you some slides and read you a few things. So I want to make sure that you know how to take care of yourself mentally over this holiday. Now this applies all year long, but we're just going to talk about it because it tends to get worse around the holidays. So let me talk first about stress. So we know how stress can really impact the body. And it can be bad for us if we are at elevated stress levels over a long period of time. It can cause many diseases. And did you know it can even lower your immune system? So all of this increased stress is actually potentially making you more susceptible to the virus or other illnesses. And so it is really important and vital even that we pay attention to our stress levels. Now what happens to our bodies when we get stressed is a hormone called cortisol is released. And that's the hormone that can cause some of those damages. Now in this day and age, we live at a heightened level of cortisol all the time, at chronic. And so a chronic heightened cortisol level can be dangerous for us. And so that's what we need to combat. So I want to center some of this training around how to lower cortisol levels. And there are several tips. Get a pen, jot these down, and think about which ones you can apply in your life to start today bringing your cortisol levels down. Okay? So here's some tips for lowering your cortisol. Start by getting the right amount of sleep. It cannot be overstated how important rest is for our bodies, for our minds, for our moods, for our immune system. We spend so much energy during the day tearing things down in our body, and our bodies rely on that downtime, that sleep time to regenerate and to restore. And so getting proper rest is really, really important. Here's some things to keep in mind. There are some ways to optimize your sleep that maybe you've heard about and just don't do, or maybe you haven't heard about them yet. Exercise can really help your sleep. If you're physically active during your waking hours, and then if you keep a regular bedtime, as much as possible, it can help. Try not to have any caffeine around bedtime. And limit your exposure to bright lights at night. So turn off screens or wind down for several minutes before bedtime. Some people suggest going around, an hour or two before bed and dimming the lights in your home. And that can start to cue your melatonin to release and let your body know it's getting ready time to sleep. Creating bedtime routines is really helpful for those body rhythms, and body rhythms will help you optimize your sleep. Limit distractions as much as you can before bed. Limit interruptions by using white noise or earplugs, so maybe you won't hear it if the dog starts scratching, which is what happens in my bedroom. Silence your phone so your notifications don't chirp and catch your attention. And try not to drink too many things right before bed, because then that might make you need to go to the bathroom. If your shift work cuts into your sleep hours at night, then pay attention to some napping. So take some naps. It can reduce your sleepiness as well as prevent a sleep deficit. You don't want to get into a sleep deficit. All right, the next thing that can lower your cortisol is exercise. Exercise, I mentioned already, is helping you sleep, but it also can lower cortisol itself directly. So exercise is really important, especially if you can do it on a regular basis. Now, sometimes if you're talking strictly about cortisol levels, if you exercise very intensely, cortisol levels are raised, but only in the short term. So you want to watch that if your goal is to lower cortisol. If you're not used to a high intensity workout, then it's probably better for you to choose lower intensity workouts, especially right at first, so that you are actually lowering your cortisol for the long term, in the short term as well. Exercise will raise your endorphins. So endorphins are the feel-good hormone. So where cortisol is the stress hormone, endorphins are the happy hormone. And so when your endorphin levels are up, it helps combat cortisol levels. So exercise can do that. The most common exercise that raises your endorphins is aerobic exercise. So get on that treadmill or go out for a walk. Exercise can provide relief for your body. In the same way that sleep can restore, exercise also can provide some relief for your body. It can release some of the tension in your muscles that's holding on to the stress, and so it can be really beneficial. And then it can undo some of the negative effects that the stress has been causing. It can relieve daily tension. It can improve your mood, improve your sleep. It can combat feelings of anxiety and depression. Another way to lower your cortisol is to recognize stressful thinking and to start to be more proactive in what goes through your mind. And that could actually affect the cortisol levels and the endorphin levels in your body. And you have control over that. One of the only things you have control over are your thoughts. And so this is really powerful for you to understand how much an impact you could be making in your body by being the captain of your thoughts. So here are some things to keep in mind. Stressful thoughts are an important signal for cortisol to be released. In fact, there was a study done where they had some people write down some past experiences that were stressful, and then they checked their cortisol levels. They had another group that wrote down some things that were happy memories and checked their cortisol levels, and they found that the group that was just remembering stressful things raised their cortisol levels quite a bit over those who were remembering positive things. Train yourself to be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of your breathing, your heart rate, and other signs of tension. And this will help recognize when stress is about to begin. And focus on awareness of your mental and physical state as you become an objective observer of your stressful thoughts instead of a victim to them. And learn to relax. There are various relaxation exercises that have been found to reduce cortisol levels. Deep breathing. This is a very simple strategy, but a pretty powerful strategy. There are different techniques you can look up online where one of them is you take in a deep breath and hold it at the top for a count of 4 and then release it slowly. When you do that, it's pushing oxygen through your bloodstream. And so it can change the hormone balance in your body and it can make you feel a little more relaxed. So try the breathing exercises. There are some studies that show that massage therapy can lower cortisol levels by up to 30%. So find a masseuse out there that's affordable and get regular massages. It's 30%, that's a big number. There are multiple studies confirm that yoga can reduce cortisol and manage stress. And then there's things like Tai Chi. Going for a walk has a big impact as well. And another tip is relaxing music. So listen to some relaxing music in the car, on the way to work, on the way home from work. Maybe if you like music while you're going to bed. Choose relaxing music. All right, my favorite tip for lowering cortisol is have fun. Have fun, because you know why? This raises your endorphin levels. Another way to keep cortisol down is simply to be happy. A positive disposition is associated with lower cortisol, as well as lower blood pressure, healthy heart rate, and even a strong immune system. So had you ever thought about Game night with the family could be boosting your immune system. Well, it can, because it lowers cortisol. Activities that increase life satisfaction also improve health. And it's one of the ways they do this could be through controlling cortisol. So come up with some things that just bring you some happiness. Do hobbies, spend time with friends. Practice some self-care. For example, a study of 18 healthy adults showed cortisol decreased in response to laughter. Intentionally insert things into your week that make you laugh. Some ideas are, chatting with a good friend, watching a funny TV show or a funny movie, or playing board games with the kids. Make up a game. Be silly. Developing hobbies can also promote feelings of well-being, which translate to lower cortisol. Spending more time outdoors can really help too. There are 2 studies that found decreased cortisol following outdoor activity besides doing an activity indoors. So getting outside can play a big role. So I hope you will take some of those tips. I hope you wrote them down and that you're thinking about 1 or 2 or all of them that you can start applying right now to start bringing your cortisol levels down. So now that we know more about dealing with stress, what about depression and anxiety that comes with this time of the year? So understanding what triggers those things can really help us in setting coping mechanisms to deal with that. So here are some things that are common stress triggers. See if any of these resonate with you. Loss of a loved one can certainly trigger depression and anxiety. Feeling like a failure. This comes up a lot at the holidays. It's because maybe parents don't feel like they can buy what their kids want for Christmas, or maybe they just can't please their mom no matter how hard they try. So there's lots of things that can bring this feeling on. Another trigger could be just getting run down physically. So there's so many pressures on us at this time of the year. And the hustle and bustle, and it kind of starts to pile on. So that can trigger depression and definitely anxiety. Another trigger is frustrated expectations. So this can be either on the part of others and their expectations or your own expectations. This can bring about some depression, some anxiety. And comparing yourself to others can be a big trigger as well, as we look around at the other people and we think, why am I not doing that? Or why can't I get it done like they do? They seem happy, they seem put together, they're getting it all done. What's wrong with me? And so that can be a big trigger on depression and anxiety as well. Take some time to consider what your triggers could be. Maybe it's on the list or maybe it's not. Maybe you're aware of something else that I didn't list today that triggers depression and anxiety for you at this time of the year or any time of the year. And once you know what your triggers are, then that can help you make a plan so that you can be prepared to deal with it as it starts to come. So here's an example. One of my triggers is frustrated or unmet expectations. So I get the expectations in my mind that the holidays are going to be a certain way. But then when it's not like that, or I suspect it's not going to be, especially because, my family members are gone and traditions are changing, I can start to think about that, and it can start to bring on some depression, some sadness that starts to set in. Or I can feel like, no matter what I do, my kids aren't going to be happy. My son made a Christmas list for Santa. I think if we bought everything on there, it would be $3,000. So I had to have to talk with him. He doesn't understand that Santa doesn't, he thinks Santa just makes these things. He doesn't know somebody has to buy them. But that brings pressure on me, and it can make me feel a lot of anxiety. So there's these expectations of, my family members, my in-laws, of, where we're going to be and what we're going to do, and are we going to get the right thing. So one thing I can do to be prepared for this trigger is I can take some time to put everyone's expectations, including my own, into perspective. I can remember that I can't control anyone's feelings but my own. But I can control those. And I can do a proactive step by planning ways that I could add value to others that I'm going to come in contact with. And then by focusing on that, which is a positive, which is an action step, it replaces the negative thoughts that are making me sad. So that is an example of how you can take a look at your trigger and come up with a plan to combat that trigger. And then perhaps it could stave off some of the depression and anxiety that may be coming. You know, mindset is a really powerful thing. Our brains can only focus on one thing at a time. I mean, it seems like we might could focus on many, but it's just because our brains can switch from one thing to another very quickly, so it feels like maybe they overlap. But actually, and that speed of that can deteriorate as we age. But having that one thought at a time is an important thing to understand, because what that means is if you start replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts and you start focusing on something positive, then it can remove that negative thing and puts it in the back seat. And so then as you're starting to think about that positive thing, it starts to lower your cortisol. And maybe, depending on how happy or exciting the memory is, or the thought is, could even be racing endorphins. So, we talked about before how even just what you're thinking about can impact your hormone levels in your body. So this is an important practice to start using. Be in control of your mindset, because everything then flows from that, and it can make a big difference in lowering cortisol for you and helping that stress hormone stay under control. So I want you to pick some of these triggers and create a plan. And I want you to pick some of the strategies for lowering cortisol. And I want you to make an action plan for the next 6 weeks or so that you're going to put into place that can help you stay mentally well this holiday season. And come back in January energized, empowered, and ready to go. So, in addition to this, taking an action step, I have a challenge I want to issue you. And that is combining two of the things that we've talked about, and that is getting outdoors and laughing. So my challenge is to you, operations, is make a video of yourself outside. So go outside and make a funny video of yourself. Now it doesn't have to be just you, but it can be. It could be you, or it could be you and others, and do something funny or silly. So some ideas are you could lip sync to a song, you could tell a joke, you could dance. Just do something that will make others laugh. But just remember, keep it appropriate and keep it safe, and remember to follow the protocols for COVID. Submit that video to me, and then I'll pick my favorite. And the winner will get $5 gift cards for all the participants in the video, and even the one who films it. So that's my challenge for you. If you want to participate, please submit your videos to me by Friday, December 4th. I will choose the winner by Friday, December 11th. And then I'll share that video out with the department and give the winners their gift cards. So I hope you do take some time and do that challenge, because not only will you laugh, but we will too. And that will lower cortisol all around. So sometimes, no matter how hard we try, though, depression and anxiety and some of these other feelings can start to overwhelm us, and we find that we're in a place where we need some extra help. And so you need to find a way to deal with that. Get some help. So you may choose to talk to a pastor, or talk to a trusted friend, or maybe do some journaling and see a counselor. So one of the cool things about working at Tech is we have an EAP program, which allows you to have 6 free counseling sessions for you and your family. So if you would like to make an appointment with them, you can call this number on the slide, 806-743-1327 or 800-327-0328. And then you can make an appointment with them and get the help that you need. Sometimes we all just need a little help. So one more really important thing that we need to think about as we get ready for the holidays is how to stay COVID safe during this holiday season. Now, we've already talked about how doing things that will improve our immune system is really important and really powerful. They say that the risk goes up for those with their immune systems are compromised. So what are you doing to boost your immune system? Be thinking about that. In these strategies that we've talked about, as well as perhaps taking some vitamins and supplements, you can talk to your doctor about what might be good for you in terms of raising your immune system there. So I know we talk a lot about safety protocols here at work in terms of staying COVID safe, but it's really important, just as important, to be thinking about that when you're not at work too. So in the evenings when you go home, on the weekends, and then over the holiday breaks, it's important that you're practicing safe practices during those times as well. So here are some tips just to give you some things to think about. Celebrate at home. So you could prepare traditional dishes with those in your household. You could host a virtual dinner and share recipes with family and friends. You could put up your favorite decorations and then share photos of it online. Watch parades and sporting events and movies at home. You can make it special and set up a little movie theater in your living room. And shop online instead of in stores. And another thing to do is if you do gather, just gather wisely. So put some practices into place. Here's some things you might think about. Can you keep it small and stay in town? That can really make a difference. If the weather's nice, stay outside because that's where it's the least risky spread of the infection is if you can be outside. But if you are inside, it really helps to make sure that you have good ventilation in the rooms where you're going to be. So look into that and maybe open some doors and windows, and ventilation will go a long way to help. Keep your masks on when you're within 6 feet of each other, but do your best to stay 6 feet away. Social distance as much as you can, and wash your hands regularly. So all of these things will be a wise choice when you get together. Now here's some things to avoid. Avoid large gatherings, especially the ones that are indoors. Avoid potlucks, buffets, or other shared foods. And avoid places with crowds, parades, running events, and sports. And avoid contact with anyone who may be sick or has been exposed. And remember your safety protocols. This is a graphic that EH&S put out to help us remember wash, wait, and wear. So practice hand hygiene. Wash for at least 20 seconds. So when washing isn't available, make sure you're using hand sanitizer. Wait means give other people their 6 feet of space at least. That's the social distancing protocol. And then wear means wear your mask and other PPE that is required for you. It is important to use multiple layers of protection because none of them are perfect. So it's kind of like lining up several slices of Swiss cheese. So you can see on this graphic how when they're lined up, each slice has holes in it. But if the holes don't line up, then it can provide a defense against the infection, and it can keep it from spreading. Sometimes, though, the holes do line up, and somebody does get it. But you can see how if you apply all of these protocols, that it can dramatically reduce your risk of catching the virus. I really hope this training was of value today. We at Operations really want to wish you the happiest and safest of holidays.